Hey guys, Vol here, how you going? Another battle report as usual today. We've got YuJing against the Neoterra Capitoline Army. We see this matchup a fair bit just because it's one of my common opponents. This time, the Admiral, JCJF from the forums. And we're going to be playing on the map Safe Area, and importantly we're going to be having another go at using the table that we used last time, the Australian table, but a modification of it. And I will be using a lot of warbands. I want to start off by just talking about my army list, so I'll just drag it up here. Okay, so this is a little bit of an unusual army list in a few ways, and I'll just get my my headshot out of the way. So it's a Hacktail list, and I've also got the Cien Warrior. What I would normally do on this list would be to run the Hacktail and a Rui Shui and free up a lot of points for like a 20 order slot. In this case I've got 4 regular orders in group 2, and one of them is the Hacker, Ninja Hacker, who usually stays out of line of sight. Guilang, Fort Observer, always in there. The Guangxi Celestial Guard, always in there. Zanshi Lieutenant, just a normal staple there. The Doctor, of course, important because when you're attacking an entrenched position with your Cien or your Hacktail, you need something to go in and heal him if he gets unlucky. Group 2, 4 Shallow Monks. Now, I normally take 2 of them. I think that that's all it's really needed. But we're just trying to emphasize games that have more warbands, just because there's been a lot of discussion about warbands lately. But I would normally prefer to take 2 of them and use that 10-point saving to actually have another regular order in there, which I find more useful in the long run. Kaisotsu Hacker, just because he's only there for putting... well, actually, it's a bit silly that the Hacker's in this list because I've actually removed the Rui Shui, so this is a little bit of list building error. I've sort of just chopped and changed at the last minute. Having said that though, Fairy Dust is still kind of useful on your 2 big units here, and you can also use your Guangxi to go Biolocator and act as a repeater for him, and he can actually hack things that get too close to your bots in heavy infantry that might be showing up, or Garudas or something like that. So he's fine. Pangolin Minesweeper, also very good for baggage in safe area, and the Flash Pole Spot, a good cheerleader as well, and of course the obvious Ninja Hacker. These days I'm going to start taking 2 of them. I think they're probably the most desirable profile in the faction, apart from possibly the Guangxi. So a couple of things to say about this. I was actually planning on running a Yanhuo, just couldn't decide what version of him to run, so I thought I'd just try the Cien out for this game. Also because I thought that with the long fire ranges in this type of table, I thought it might be a good opportunity to assault sort of any entrenched, how should I put it, entrenched ARO pieces that might crop up, maybe a Hexa Sniper or some heavy infantry behind cover. So I thought that might be the plan. Let's get into the game. So, in fact, the very first photo I take is the hidden deployment of the Hacktail. So that this model is actually not on the table to begin with. He's in hidden deployment, and also the Ninja, importantly going on the right-hand side of my deployment zone. Now, he is actually using a Squallow for this game and going first. And over here, this is his right-hand side setup. On this side of the table, he's got a Pathfinder drone out the front here, the Flash Pole Spot Fugazi engineers tied to the Pell Bot. We've got a CSU, and there's an auxiliary here in the link team further back. Here's a bit of a top-down view of his side. If I move my camera, you've got the Warcore up top here. In fact, we'll just draw things. So the Warcore is over here. That's CSU, and there's another CSU off picture to the side there. There's an auxiliary team to the left. And here we've got his Doctor. This is just a missile launcher. It's not prone, so it's actually getting this long fire lane through here. Again, just might move the camera for that. This model is just a normal Fusilier. We've got the Hacker, and this is, I think, a Fort Observer, and another Fusilier down here. And this is the auxiliary team there. Okay. And then on the left-hand side, you can see he's got his engineer down further here, and of course another auxiliary team, and the Warcore at the top. From my side of the table, forgot to actually bring along my HVT. So if you see this model here, a Yud bot standing in the middle of nowhere, that's actually meant to be an HVT. Then of course we've got the Guangxi prone over here, the Xian with HMG there, obviously the Shaolin monk number 1, another Guangxi here. This is the baggage bot right there. We have the Kaisotsu hacker there and the doctor here. The PAL bot for the doctor is further up into the middle of the deployment zone. This is looking from the left hand side because I want him to support the hack tower. So as we saw earlier, the hack tower is actually hidden deployed in this spot here, and the ninja is deployed in this spot here. So I'm just going to put an H for the hack tower and the N for the ninja. That's the hidden deployment locations. Then we've got the Palbot, we've got, well, Yao Zhao I should say, we've got the Chai remote flash pulse, we've got a Shaolin here. This is the lieutenant. We've got another Shaolin hiding in the shadows right there. It's very hard to see him in the photo. We've got the Celestial Guard control device. Guangxi here, another Guangxi, another Shaolin, and on the roof, don't forget about this guy, the Guilong. And I want to say at this point that we made the lieutenant role after picking classifieds. We both opted for the Intelcom card, which I think is crucial in this mission. You should always go for Intelcom. Then we made the dice roll. I won the dice roll and opted to go specifically for second turn. I think this mission is just too weighted towards having the final turn where you can just move on to the zones that you want. I personally would never recommend going for any of the other options, deployment or first turn, unless you've built your list so heavily weighted to first turn, or the table is so skewed to one side that you have to, otherwise you're just going to get rolled. But if you can actually hold on at all, you should be going for second turn if possible. I want to point out that my opponent said to me after the game that if he had won the roll, he probably wouldn't have gone immediately for second turn, just because he had taken the Squallow and he'd wanted to actually use the first turn to inflict damage on the deployment zone. So fair enough. I think the point there is that the deployment roll really wouldn't have mattered because I would have got my way and got second regardless of what happened there. So to begin with, we've got the Squallow deploying here, and he's of course moving out, and his goal is to get around here. In fact, his goal is to set up behind this crate here. He's actually already moved in from the deployment zone from that angle, right? Okay. Notice here that the Xian warrior, because the Squallow was the reserve model, I foolishly deployed him here initially and didn't realize a tag was going to shoot me first turn. So all the shots come barreling in through this angle. Xian takes a single wound and drops back around the corner. So manages to survive, but yeah, I think I sort of misdeployed him here. I was just thinking, hey, you know, I could at least stop things from charging around that flank. I was expecting the reserve model to be something else like, I don't know, a Hexa or a Bulleteer or something like that, but yeah, I should have known. Alright, what happens after this though is that the Squallow is now moving into a position where he can actually use speculative fire. So you can see there that there's a Guangxi which survives the speculative fire blast and dodges out around so he can see the Squallow. Point of that is that he's got dogged. He can actually keep dodging towards the Squallow as the Squallow's firing bombs down to the back, and if that just keeps going for the rest of the turn for the next 6 orders, the Guangxi can slowly dodge closer and closer until a point where he can actually fire his pistol or his chain rifle even. Okay, now interesting position. So at this point my opponent wants to actually hop up onto the crate and then go back down again to this spot here because he thought he was able to actually get high up enough onto the crate to get an angle down onto the Xian warrior, which is actually facing a little bit back from the other crate. So if you look at this photo here, he believes that getting up on top of the crate here will actually give him a long-range downward angle to the back of the silhouette. We tried it, but he didn't manage to get it. In fact, I think I've actually got a picture of it. We've set up the silhouette, and there's a photo, and if you look carefully, if you blew this photo up, in fact, I'm not sure if maybe I can do it. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I can obviously zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so if you look at this, there's a little red sliver, which is the silhouette token I'm using above the crate, but notice the eye level of the camera isn't actually level with the silhouette. So as soon as you come down a little bit further, this red sliver disappears, so we did not get line of sight to that. Alright, so we'll go to the next picture. Yeah, so you can also see when we move the camera up a bit higher, he's trying to get line of sight to these models here as well, but still no dice. Okay, so at this point, because he's moved up on top of the cover, I reveal my hack tower. The reason for doing this is that I'm sort of scared about him just going to continue to speculative fire me. I don't want to be hit by too many spec fires because I'd rather keep the CN alive for my turn. This does allow the Squalor to shoot me, but he's needing 9s on 4 dice versus my 14 on 1 dice. Incidentally, I rolled and won the face-to-face roll, but the armor saved it. So he was able to guts further back into cover at this point just by going further towards this direction there. So the hack tower actually helps me defend this pretty well. Note the positioning, so if we move the camera here, obviously you can see the hack tower in the distance, and what he can do is just pull back into the cover to a point where he can't be seen by the hack tower. If he does try to actively just shoot the hack tower until he gets some damage done, that might backfire on him, and if it does wound the hack tower, I simply just pull back into cover because I've left myself some space, so that's all looking good. So now just fully pulling back into cover here. He has got a couple of orders left for suppression fire, but he wants to use it doing other things. Not suppression fire, I meant speculative fire. He has actually managed to fire enough times that I have lost the Shaolin Monk at the back and the baggage bot, but the Sienna's either managed to dodge or pass armor saves there. Note that I have got a doctor nearby, but it would take me a couple of orders to get the doctor around to revive this Sienna later, so I don't really want to have to lose him there. So what's happening instead is we're now getting to a point where he's actually moving out with his units. He's got this CSU actually moving through to this corner over here. He's moved his Pathfinder remote up to the console. By the way, the console only is relevant at the end of the game if you have specialists touching it at the end. Also got the other CSU moving up and the little Fugazi drone bot as well. Alright, so what he's now doing is trying to get his guys into our favorite mode of all, suppression fire. So there's a CSU in suppression fire, there's a Pathfinder in suppression fire, and we've got the little repeater bot here next to the tag, but the tag is also in suppression fire as well. So heavy suppression fire, it's the exact thing that I love to see. I love to see this this sort of passive kind of play. Alright, now it goes over to me, and I've got some impetuous to do. Note that I've positioned my Shaolin monks in a way that there's one here, you can sort of see his yellow token sticking out behind the crate. He's actually started in this position and moved around, and the plan is to actually lob a smoke template there, and then we've got the other Shaolin monk moving up and trying to lob a smoke template there. They're heading on 16s, but I actually missed both shots, so that was extremely annoying. Note that putting the smoke there allows the Guangxi to actually advance with impetuous and not get shot at. So despite what happened though, the Guangxi do advance, and the suppression fire does actually work out to be ineffective, and the Guangxi pass their armor saves, which is kind of hilarious. So on the other side though, I've spent an order holding back this particular Shaolin monk because he would have headed towards the CSU on the other side of the table. The reason I've held him back a little bit is I want him to actually come over here on this side. So he's been a bit lucky. He's managed to put down some smoke. I'll get some red here, obviously, and that blocks the lane of fire from his Link Team missile launcher, because there's a lane of fire right through there, so I want to avoid that. Also, quite importantly, he's thrown another smoke grenade. I'm expending all my group 2 orders for this. This is a long range smoke, so the distance there is 16 inches, right? So it's at -3, so I'm heading on a 10 or less, but even if I fail it, I've got a few more orders in group 2 backing that up. So eventually the smoke goes down. Now, this is the point in the game where I actually had to pause and think about what to do for about 5 or even 10 minutes. I usually don't take that long, but you can see here that there's a bit of a problem. First of all, the ninja's on the wrong side of the table. Realistically, I should have put the ninja somewhere like there, but I was a little bit worried he might go on the offensive with his sensor bot. In hindsight, I'm thinking that I should have just put the ninja there anyway, because even if he gets revealed and destroyed, my opponent's spending so many orders on that I'm not getting thrashed by a Squalor at the start of the turn if that were the case, right? So with a ninja not being there, how can I beat the Squallow in this situation? Well, one way to do it is to actually get the hack tower to come through this angle here and actually climb up in the crate and go into close combat. It's not really wonderful though, because it takes a lot of orders, and as soon as he pops out of camo, he's got to actually fight the tag, and he's not actually that good against beating the tag. He's only like +1 close combat, and the tag stands a good chance of beating him. If the Xian warrior comes up, then he actually gets line of sight to the Xian warrior as soon as he leaves the clouds, so that's not wonderful. The third problem with that avenue is that the Xian and the hack tower are hackable, and the hack tower especially so after it comes out of camo, and he's left his repeater bot next to the tag, which is quite a good move, I must add. Now, I've got the Kaisotsu in group 2 can put fairy dust down, so the chance of me getting hacked is very low. I'm on BTS 9, he's at -3 whip. So had there been a good opportunity to do that, I would have done it. I wholeheartedly would have gone there and risked it, but because there's no way to get up onto the crate very easily, I decided not to. So my other option, I mean, I could have moved the ninja all the way across the deployment zone and into close combat, and that might have been okay, but another problem with that is that the ninja's in group 2, and I don't really have any orders in group 2, so I would have had to transfer the ninja to group 1 and then moved him around, and it's just not certain, because I've got to again get up on the box, I've got to get around there, and there are other things that could have shot at me. So that really only leaves a couple of options. One option is just to ignore the tag, go after other things on the table, but that means that he'd have another turn with the tag, and the speculative fire might start to get out of hand if he's just attacking me from like order number 1. So I decided to go with the only other option I thought was viable, and that is to get the Xian warrior and just shoot, right? So it comes around the corner and fires at the tag, and I actually have 9 orders to shoot at him all turn long, alright? So if he does kill the tag, I've got a pretty good chance of just winning this game, because in his second and third turn, he's got nothing to really follow up the aggression with, and I've got 2 heavy infantry models which can just walk into the zones that are needed at the end of the game and win pretty handily. But we can see there's a problem here. The Xian warrior is only on 1 wound left. If the tag gets even a single crit, then I'm done for. Let's spend some time talking about it. The Xian warrior is ballistic skill 14, +3 for range because the distance here is at about 20, right? +3 for range, -3 for cover, minus another 3 for shooting into suppression if he chooses to use it. So if he chooses to use suppression, I'm hitting on 11s. But if he does use suppression, he starts at ballistic skill 15. He's -3 for cover, -3 for range, minus another 6 for shooting back at me through the cloud. 15 minus 12 is 3. So it's 4 dice on 11s versus 3 dice on 3s. Now you can see that it's very unlikely for the Xian to run into any trouble there, but because the tag is going to be armor 11, he's passing dice rolls, armor saves of 5+, so only a 4 or less will actually fail. So I've got to get kit crits through, I've got to get him to fail armor saves, and that might take a lot of orders. Now if you're rolling 3 dice again and again and again and again and again, you're going to get a crit at some stage, and that's all it's going to take. So bear in mind, guys, even if you have 20 dice and you pick them all up in a bucket and you tip them all out, it's very, very possible for none of them to come up, you know, the 1 dice roll you need. Also, having said that, it might not take 20 dice rolls before I've actually achieved the objective, which is for me to get either 3 crits through or for him to fail 3 saves. Let's say on the first shot he fails 1 armor save, second shot he fails another 1, and the third one I get a crit. That's possible, in which case he's only rolled 9 dice so far, and getting no crits on any of them, it's plausible, okay? The second thing I want to point out about the situation is that if the Xian dies in the very first attempt, the doctor could get down here, easily just walk across this box. It'll only take 2 orders and revive him, so he can actually continue attacking if that happens. Also, I want to point out that if we get another color, let's get an orange color here, the Xian warrior can move over, position himself there, and fire through the gap in the smoke at the tag, right? So that is very, very possible. Let's say the Xian warrior burns through 6 orders and then dies. I've still got 3 more for the hack tower to move around. I'll try and finish the job, if you can see what I'm saying there. Now here comes the really interesting part. Let's just close this for a moment and bring up dice calculator because I'm sure you guys all want to do this. Feel free to go and actually close this YouTube video and pause it and look this up yourself, because I can easily get this wrong. So I'm just going to zoom it in a little bit. Is this zooming it in? Okay, so let's just make sure we get this right. Active player, YuJing. Alright, it's the CN warrior. Yep, we've got that right. Wounds previously taken. Well, I guess I should change that to 1. Attack, shoot. Yep, he's doing that. He's using the HMG. He's using normal ammunition. That's all he's got. It's burst 4, damage 15. There's no template. Range, he's between 16 and 32. That's correct. Not in a link team. Visibility penalty, none. He is in cover. We've checked that. I've put down additional modifier. I've selected 3 because I don't think there's a suppression fire option within this calculator. Let's go up to the reactive player. It's the Pan-Oceania unit Squalos. No changes to this. Wounds previously taken, none. He's shooting back. He's using the multi-HMG in burst mode. He's not using anti-material or stun because he's using suppression fire, right? The ammo, we've chosen AP for this one. Burst is 3 specifically because that's what you get in suppression fire. Damage is 15, no template. Range, well, technically the range is between 16 and 32, but because we're using the suppression fire profile, I'm just going to pick either 0 to 8 or 32 to 48 because that's what gives me the -3 penalty. Not in a link team. Visibility penalty, yes, there's a 0 vis zone, so he's shooting back through, it's -6, and we've ticked off cover. There's no additional modifiers that I can think of, and please just write me a comment if you feel I've got this dice calculator wrong. Let's roll the dice. So we go up here. Now this surprised me. I didn't actually expect to see this result. 40% chance of the Cien inflicting 1 or more wounds on the Squalos, even though it's got armor 11. So I guess the reason why it's coming up with that result is that chances are that the Cien's going to get 2 hits through. So that's going to happen, almost all the time. And the tag only has to roll less than a 5 on 1 of those dice for it to come through, and it's thinking the chances of that are about 40%. Alternatively, one of those 4 dice rolls could be a crit, so that is factored in. 47% player, neither player succeeds, and most of the time that'll be because he's tanking the armor saves, right? Reactive player, 12.29%, the Squallow inflicts 1 or more wounds, and if that happens, then, the plan is sort of busted there and I have to fall back on the Hack Tower or the Doctor. Thinking back to it, yeah, it's actually not that bad a situation for me as I thought. Let's just show the modifiers here. So me, base 11, -3, +3, minus another 3, opponent's got +3, net BS is 11, yep, that's right. Reactive model starts with 15, -12, net BS is 3, he's got +3 armor, so I think we've calculated this correctly. Interesting stuff. So yeah, after all of that, it looks like this worked out fine. When we made the dice rolls though, when it came to the actual game, what happened is that I did burn through 6 orders, didn't get critted, and I did manage to destroy him, and then I spent the remaining 3 orders just wiping him off the table so the engineer couldn't revive him. So that's where we ended up in that situation. I think it's worth pausing at this point and just saying that on the forums and elsewhere, people are talking about tags going into suppression fire, and one of the comments that I hear quite a lot is that, hey, the tag is got such good armor and the suppression fire is such a good deterrent that, a tag being suppression fire is just this really powerful rock of aero grandness. And I think this situation is one of the situations which helps to demonstrate that. Like, I'm not really loving my chances there, and the tag is actually in a really great position there, and the fact that he's got a repeater helping him out is wonderful. If I'd moved my ninja in, what probably would have happened is that he would have probably revealed a killer hacker and actually stomped me with Red Rom or something like that. So that was a great spot to be in. And when people talk about tags being suppression fire, this is just the kind of thing that they're looking for. Having said that, I mean, would you rather be the NCA player in that spot? Would you rather be the NCA player just waiting for your opponent to sort of fluff the dice roll and for you to get a crit? Or would you have put the Squallow somewhere else? If it had been me, I would have gone for a few suppression fire shots and then pulled the tag right back to my deployment zone. I mean, it's unlucky he hadn't killed the Sien Warrior, but you don't really want the Sien Warrior being able to shoot back at you, or for the Doc to be able to revive it, or for the tag to be there and a Hack Tower to be able to shoot you. Because, let's face it, the Hack Tower is able to achieve something similar. The Hack Tower wouldn't get cover, but it'd still be like 14 dice against, what is it going to be? 6s, so the Hack Tower still has a pretty good shot at it. It might even be possible for the Hack Tower to actually come back to some sort of position like, what if he moves over here, goes on top of the ladder and ends up there? I mean, he might eventually get, beyond 24 inches if he pulls the right angle, if you guys see what I'm saying. The tag might be able to guts back behind cover, but he'd have to go 2 inches over the bot, and that might not have worked. So, interesting game. I just want to point out the fact too that this isn't really the kind of list that I always run. I mean, I like to have our Rui Sheed there instead of the Sien and other things. And I was also looking at taking a Yan Huo. How would the Yan Huo have fared? Well, the missile launchers would have been a totally different story. So, remember, we're just playing a normal game of Infinity here. It's not really like this one game proves anything by itself. Yes, the Squello did kill like one warband in its reactive turn, and it also killed a couple of warbands in the active turn from the template, but that's just the kind of tag that it is, right? So the table and the lists wouldn't deter me from taking less warbands in future or playing them differently. Being on a table like this makes me still feel comfortable taking 8 warbands and them doing fine, and I don't feel it's the tag and the suppression fire specifically curing them and actually getting rid of them. It's just a combination of good play, and there are other factors involved, as you guys can surely appreciate. Okay, so you can see over here we've got the Shaolin Monk just moving around a little bit further, planting another template over here, I believe was the situation. And you can sort of see what's happened. He's actually tried to come out and attack me in his follow-up turn with this this remote. This is the Flash Pulse remote, and the Shaolin's actually plopped the smoke template down. This is where he ends up. So he's got his little Fugazi over here, and I think that you can appreciate his plan is to put my Hack Tower in hacking range of his repeater. I think it's a really stupid plan though, because he's getting arrows from the pistols immediately, and there's a Sien Warrior which is going to turn around and attack him straight away, not to mention the Shaolin which is just going to impetuous into him. So I don't really know why he spent orders moving the Fugazi over there. On the other flank, if we move the camera a little bit, we've got the CSU, which is staying there, not even moving. It's still got suppression fire up, but we're now moving in this direction with the Auxilia team, and we'll find out why in a second. So Auxilia team are trying to get to a position where they can actually pull around this corner and go after my warbands. What I thought they would do, what I really thought they'd do, is actually go up the stairways and actually attack the Guilang, because the Guilang's up there as well, and the Guilang is going to be my ace in the hole at the end of the game for securing either this zone or getting a specialist into a base with a console, or using the height advantage to shoot down here at whatever he puts in his zone. So if I'd been him, I would have gone after the Guilang for sure. What ends up happening though is he's trying a maneuver here which is not great. He's trying to come in and actually spray these guys with a flamethrower. I don't love this, because this guy gets to shoot his pistol or his chain rifle immediately, and these guys get to dodge. The front guy's dodging on a 12+, and he has a chance to pass the armor save, and the Shaolin, similar sort of thing, but at -3. What happens here is that these two guys survive. He tanks a chain rifle, and this guy dodges, so nothing's actually even achieved in this order. But he's got more orders to do that with, so eventually this guy gets taken down to 1 wound from the Dogged. The other 2 continue to survive. He then pulls over here, and note this is quite fancy. What he's doing here is he's actually placing his template in such a way that the Guangxi is touched by it, and the Shaolin Monk is actually hit by the template as well, because you're able to put the template touching it to one side. Apparently that's a legit thing to do, so no worries at all. Also, I've got a Flash Bolt spot now actually shooting through and hitting his guys, so it results in him using the Auxilia bot in the end, but not his Auxilia does manage to survive. Okay, so as you can see, what he does here is he pulls back around the corner, and we're going into our favorite mode again, suppression fire. So we've got the suppression fire here, and we've got the suppression fire along here, and this guy over here also in suppression fire, shooting down through this gap here. So yeah, suppression fire it is. Pan Oceania, they really love it. Now this engineer is now moving out just to try and get into position for later in the game to be dominating consoles. Now it's my turn. So, as we saw before, the Shaolin monk survived with his smoke arrow. What he's able to do at this stage is blast this bot with his chain rifle, and this guy here fires with suppression fire and actually fails to kill the Shaolin monk, unluckily. The Shaolin passes the armor check here. So that results in me murdering the bot and still having the Shaolin alive, which is awesome. Elsewhere on the table, though, the other Shaolin monks are now successful in actually putting out the smoke. There's one further down the field here. We'll just go draw again. So further down the field, we're throwing a smoke there, and this guy's throwing a smoke here. So now we've blocked off the alleyway for any sort of any problems from that side, right? Which is good. To get rid of that annoying CSU, the hack tower, of course, fires his HMG through to this model here with the suppression, and the hack tower easily destroys the CSU. No problema. Now we can move out with the Shaolin, who's been freed up. So the Shaolin is able to move through here and fire the template. This is going to be important because there's a Fusilier Link team which has got an angle through there. There's also a Walker which has got an angle through here, right? So his smoke's actually getting a lot done. That then enables him to move through here, and he's going to take a free Walker hit, but the Walker fails to actually hit the Shaolin. So again, the Shaolin's having a big run of good luck, and that's able to allow him to actually push over to the remote, right? So what he does, because his first short skill obviously idle, then come around, so it causes the remote to actually have to either just hold his arrow or sorry, not hold his arrow, reset or whatever it is. So he chooses to do nothing, and then the monk moves into close combat and just swings a stick, right? So he's close combat 23. Ironically, though, he manages to get a critical hit. So he's finally got the crit. He deserves a crit after missing so many with the tag, but even though this guy's spent his entire turn getting there only to fail, it does make a difference, because now he gets into close combat, and I can use the Xian Warrior to come around and fire into close combat, and this guy won't be able to respond with suppression at that point. So the here he is unconscious, and the suppression fire, sorry, the Xian Warrior now moves out. Point here that the Warcore now gets to fire a flash pulse at him. It's very long range though, and the Warcore misses, so the Xian Warrior is able to shoot some bullets up there and actually destroy him. There was a cloud template in the middle of the table there blocking it, but the Xian actually comes past a very small sliver where the Warcore was able to see past it. Despite that, the Xian is still victorious in that shootout. Where are we? Okay, so here's the Warcore. You can see from the Warcore's angle, and the Xian Warrior is all the way on this side of the table if you look closely. Alright, so the Xian Warrior moves out, does shoot into combat, destroys both the Shaolin Monk and the Pathfinder, and retreats. And I've just pulled him around here, up the stairs and prone. And the point is that if something comes after him, he's hopefully going to be able to dodge around here. But if he stands up, the missile launcher blasts him, so we can't really allow that. And he's still wounded, so it's a bit problematic. My opponent's third and final turn, TO camo marker appears, keeps on moving down. You can see he's sort of coming down in this direction here, and his plan is to obviously go around after the Xian Warrior. Exactly what I feared, so maybe I should have run a bit faster. When he does get around here, he is now in the back arc of the Xian Warrior, so we've got a discover attempt from the hack tower here, and the Xian Warrior just has to delay really in case he gets shot at. But what ends up happening is we get to a position where the Hexa killer hacker is able to attack him in the back, and after a couple of attempts, he fails the first attempt, but the second attempt does manage to eliminate the Xian Warrior, which is good because now the Hexa can actually set up next to the console, and just gives me extra work to do to actually come over and remove him. Otherwise I have to work harder elsewhere. Okay, so also have my Shaolin Monk over here, so I think this takes it to my final turn after he's put himself into a position with a couple more units. So my Shaolin Monk getting shot at by this auxiliary up here and dying. Actually, no, this is still the end of his turn. He moves his auxiliary next to the console once again and goes into suppression. Favorite mode, everyone's in suppression, and he set up this position here, so you can see that this guy here is taking my console on my zone. He's got a hexer in my zone on the console as well. CSU still providing suppression fire, and he's now got the engineer, which goes prone behind this console. So this is propping up points in his zone, and in case I'm only able to get 2 zones out of 4, he's going to have more consoles controlled for the victory. So how do we win? So first of all, Impetuous, the Shaolin Monk moves around to destroy this model. I had 2 command tokens left. I decided not to spend one to make this one a regular order, although I realized later I should have. What happens here though is that we fire the chain rifle and it does eliminate the auxilia. So that means that my first zone is cleared. I'm up 1 zone. Secondly, the lieutenant, who has nothing to contribute and doesn't actually cost me anything if he dies, stands up and tries to eliminate this CSU here by firing his gun at long range, and it results in neither model dying, so I'm not going to spend any more orders on him. What we have to do now is as follows. So after looking at the board, the only model in his friendly zone on his right hand side was this Palbot. So if the Xian Warrior uses all 5 orders in group 1 to come all the way around here, it can actually shoot at the Palbot and then stay in my zone. Note that I'll get a different color here. Note that the console's here and the console's here, so if you just use your eyesight, the middle of the table has to be here. So that means that the zone on this side has nobody in it, and the zone on this side would have basically like the points for the hack tower and his points for the hexer. So I'd clearly take this zone. So that gives me the zone on my left, the zone on my right, because I'd cleared out his auxiliary, and I've still got a ninja there, and I've still got a Guilang there, and he'd have nothing in one of his zones, so it would be 2 zones to 1 zone. So it's an automatic victory right there. What ended up happening though is the hack tower fires at the Palbot. All 4 of the dice above the roll he needed, like 11, like they all came up above 11, and he survived, and I had no more orders to spend on him. So this means that the game could be a draw if I can't actually take out one more of his zones, and I've got nothing left in group 1 that can move over there. So that was a disastrous roll, got very unlucky, but that's okay. I also got reasonably lucky to avoid a crit earlier on against the Squallow. So fair enough. So what happens here? We have kept the ninja up our sleeve like an ace in the hole. So the ninja has several orders left to go. First order moves him out to here. Second order moves him all the way into my opponent's zone. Note that the table boundary is around about here. So with 2 orders having been spent, it puts the ninja into his zone, and all he has there is a CSU and an engineer. CSU is worth something like 12 points, the engineer is worth something like 15, so he's got 27 in his zone. I've got the ninja worth 29, so it's an automatic win to me, except we've both taken Intelcom, and the rules for Intelcom are that you can actually add the points for the data displayed in the card, and there are like 40 cards, and there are values from 0 to 40 kind of thing. I already knew that I had a card worth 32, so chances are the card that I had more than likely be more than what he had, since you've only got 2 cards out of the deck, and the chance of getting a number between 35 and 40 are relatively slim, right? So the best option for me in this case is just to not use the 3rd order on the ninja. Alright, so there's a number of things to say at this stage. Point number 1, I really should have just spent that command token, turning the Shaolin Monk's irregular into a regular, and actually using the final order to actually go behind the CSU and then actually attack it in the back with surprise attack. The reason I can't go in the front is that he's got a nanopulsar, and I risk too much losing the ninja in that spot. What actually happened during this game is that I said to my opponent, hey, look, just going to call the game. If this is a tournament or a league game or some sort of game where the outcome matters, it's better for me to actually stop there and not attack. And that is because I thought that me drawing a 32 almost sealed it. Realized later it's a random value between 1 and like 40 or something like that. So the chances, weren't perfect, and maybe it might have been better to attack with a ninja or something like that. At the time, I'd forgotten about the fact that suppression fire against TO camo and surprise attack would be still -12, so he can't hit me. And I'd also forgotten about the nanopulsar even being there. So I said to him, hey, look, why don't we just play it through to the end? We'll play a version of the game where the ninja attacks. And then what happened is the ninja just dies when we made the dice rolls. So, the outcome of the game is a little bit bifurcated there. Bear in mind that if we went back to replay the start of this turn, I just would have got the extra order and we would have been okay. But yeah, I mean, feel free to walk away from this game and coming to the conclusion that YuJing actually lost, because to be fair, we actually did make a dice roll to see whether he survived the nanopulsar, and I didn't. But on the other hand, I did actually say during this game, hey, the outcome is that I'm just going to hold there. Without really knowing whether I was good. We turned over the Intel Com cards. He had one worth 30, I had one worth 32, so I did have more points in the zone, didn't need to use it. But the thing is, if he'd turned over a card worth 39 or 40, he would have had slightly more points than me, and it would have been better in that case to have actually risked it. But with incomplete information, I still think I made the right play. Yeah, especially since going back to that situation, it's open information, so I should have been aware of the fact that the nanopulse was there, and that definitely would have totally sealed it, definitely wouldn't have attacked. So that's how the game ended, right? Yeah, so interesting game. I think that some people will watch a bad rep like this and come away from it feeling like, oh, okay, YuJing sort of got lucky there. I mean, you shouldn't really have been able to attack into the Squallow so easily, and you were in a disadvantage after turn one. The Squallow really sort of wrecked you there. Other people might come away with a different interpretation that, okay, well, the Xian with the cloud, it was the best thing I could have done. I had the hack tower to back it up. The doctor was there. So it was more than likely, more than 50% likely that I would have beaten the tag. After killing the tag, the game's basically in the bag. The hack tower got extremely unlucky to actually kill that Pelbot. And even though I got that unlucky, I'd won the game anyway, because I could have just turned the Shaolin Monk's order into an extra move for the ninja and attacked in the back and just killed the CSU that way. So that's another way of interpreting it. But look, we had a lot of fun. We learned a bit about Infinity. We did a lot of thinking and talking about it, and I think we can get a lot out of a game like this. I'm still enjoying the terrain. This isn't really the sort of list I'm normally comfortable with. I'm going to try out a few variations, but I'm definitely comfortable with the 8 warbands being in there. There's no issue with that. And when my opponent is just putting things constantly in suppression fire, I don't feel like going into future games, that's going to be a problem I'm going to be trying to solve. When I design my lists and I work on a game plan, I'm not trying to counter suppression fire. I'm not trying to sort of, oh, what do I do if he has a tag in suppression fire or a whole bunch of guys in suppression fire? That is not one of the things I'm worried about. What I do worry about is my opponent outplaying me on the scenario, or being very aggressive and actually ruining a lot of my order pools and taking out real important threats on my side of the board. That's what scares me as a player, and that's how I usually get outplayed when I do lose. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Leave me a comment, and we'll have some more bat reps for you soon.